All right, that was incredible. I'm almost speechless about this. We have Daniele Gottardo, who is obviously an absolute beast on the guitar and a compositional maniac. Daniele, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Anthony. Thank you for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Alas,
Awesome.
I'm a fan of your channel,
Thank
and
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. So, tell us about what we just heard, and how do you go about writing something like this? This is a pretty unique piece of music, even for our channel. So, I'm sure
ah,
people will want to hear more about it.
that is a long story. It's a long story, but let me try to be fast about that. Basically, I started playing guitar like everybody. I was focused on, in the beginning, glam rock, classic rock, Kiss, all this stuff, and then I started to play more charade guitar, you know. And then I started very early actually to be interested in more kind of a classical European kind of harmony. And then a friend of mine, guitar player, told me you must study this book of harmony of Schoenberg. It's called. He's, he has different one, the harmony book. And then I started to see how okay you can do different stuff because also soon in my development as a guitar player I started to be interested in like a fusion guitar rock fusion, and I still like a lot of that stuff, but the harmonies are kind of very specific when I wanted to develop more flexibilities. And then basically I started to study a lot of classical music, classical theory, the type of voice leading that you use in that kind of composition, and then in the most recent years more kind of counterpoint really, and to try to develop a different type of arrangements. And this piece is a kind of after several years of work in that direction, how I can say, help me, how I can say, a kind of
Composition,
I
notation.
put all together. Let's say I
Oh,
put
you
all together, all
assembled
my,
it.
yeah, exactly, all my studies. And then in this piece there is for instance there is more than one melody that goes each time. There is two melodies and then different. Yeah, the idea to put in instrumental composition elements of taken from different type of period of music. I don't know what I'm saying.
It's okay. A
What do you
lot of
think?
my music comes from the band Gentle Giant. Like they had a big inspiration on me, and uh, they did a lot of motivic composition. They'd take a motif and then repeat it and extend it and move it between different instruments. And you're definitely following in that sort of more classical compositional tradition, um, which is interesting because you're such a diverse electric guitar player. And normally, and I know I'm guilty of this, normally with electric guitar players, it's like I'm gonna play Bach as heavy metal, or I'm gonna play an aggressive piece like a Paganini Caprice or something as a distorted guitar thing. But you are using the guitar differently as an actual instrument within a chamber orchestra, which is something that I began to appreciate, with Steve Vai, because he's been after this for decades now. But you're doing it in a very organic way, as though the electric guitar and the way you play it always belonged in the orchestra. Now, obviously, it all came from your mind, so you're composing this music with that in mind. But listening to this album, it doesn't sound like there's a guitar on top of an orchestra. It sounds like there's a guitar as one of the instruments in an orchestra.
Yeah, thank you. your analysis is exactly what I wanted to do. As you mentioned, electric guitar has been used a lot, especially I think starting with Richie Blackmore, and then we have Malmsteen, and then Jason Becker, and all these two guitar players that I mentioned was a big inspiration for sure, especially Jason Becker, I must say. That was the first guy I hear that he was playing kind of neoclassical stuff, but a little bit outside the usual conventional metal, neoclassical metal harmonies. He was experimenting, especially in his second album, Perspective, from the early 90s. Then he was a big influence, definitely, about trying to take classical influences, but trying to push a little bit that concept. And definitely, because this kind of idea you mentioned, play a piece of Paganini with a very distorted that guitar is being done a lot, especially during the 80s and 90s, you know. Then I said, okay, this is already done also very well. What we can do to develop this concept. And then because of my interest in pure composition, I said, okay, to me it was natural to put the two things together, pure composition and the guitar playing. And then little by little, my interest in composition become stronger than my interest in guitar. And then it was natural to me to say, okay, I want to use the guitar as an instrument, and not as an instrument like the other, in a more balanced way, in a more organic way, like you said.
Excellent. So let's take a listen to another track. So that video we just saw for the song INkBlot is brand new today, right? You just released it a couple hours ago, I think. We're going to listen to next. Spirals is a little bit long, so we'll maybe do half of it, but I think that's such an incredible piece of music. I absolutely love it, so I want to share that with our viewers. Do you have anything you want to say about it as we, prepare their ears?
There is the sister of Gretchen, man, that is singing in this piece.
Oh, Gretchen.
Here and there.
Yeah, so people, if you don't know, Daniele's wife is Gretchen Menn, the incredible electric guitarist. So they're like a power guitar couple. Also, if you didn't happen to catch it, I interviewed Gretchen, I don't know, a year or two ago about her album with an orchestra, which is also fantastic, and I highly recommend you check that out. But I guess listen for her sister singing on this one. Awesome. All right, let's take a listen. All right, I really hate to stop that, but we've got to. We have a lot of talking to do about this. Oops.
Yes, it's a lot of music.
Sorry, Daniele. What was that?
Nothing. Yeah, it's a little bit long.
It's an incredible piece of music, and you did an amazing job. I don't know how much you listen to Gustav Holst, but I've been digging through his planets, like the manuscript, and I've been transcribing some of it for guitar lately in my free time, and I'm hearing a lot of similar texture building. You're using digital delay, which he didn't have, but it's interesting how he used multiple layers of violins to achieve a similar effect. I don't know if you had that in mind, but that's what came to mind for me.
Thank you, because that score is amazing. There is a particular movement that you prefer. I really like Venus, and from the planets of Venus, and also the Mystic. I don't remember, number 7, I think. Anyway, definitely I've been studied a lot of score, trying to understand what the composer did in terms of harmony, in terms of arrangement, orchestration, voice leading, stuff like that. Host, I didn't study him very much. There is so many,
Oh yeah.
I really like Venus, like I said, that I checked the score a little bit, but more recently, I need to say that for this album, influence was a lot of Russian composer for sure. That has always been my kind of obsession, especially minor composers. Everybody, when they think of Igor Stravinsky, that obviously is a big influence, especially the early Stravinsky. Everybody knows the Rite of Spring, super famous, but I really like the things he did when he was very young, when he was still a student of Rimsky-Korsakov. Then he first work up 3, up 4, 5, was a very harmonically, very sophisticated, but not too dissonant. It wasn't atonal. It was still very chromatic. And this is what I'm trying to achieve in terms of harmony, in terms of sound. The first piece you played, the INkBlot, is very dissonant. Actually, the influences are much more modern, probably more neoclassic, not like Malmsteen, but neoclassic, like the musical style during the 30s, the 40s, the classical style. And this piece was more influenced, actually, Russian composers, really like Anatoly Lyadov is a composer that nobody knows. He didn't compose a lot, but he was amazing in terms of color and mood, incredible harmonies, Then I like to listen to this unknown composer and take the harmonies, I say a score, okay, he's doing this. Sometimes I don't understand anything when it's too complicated, but still studying a lot, to develop my skills. And then I take the harmonies and I develop my own version of that. Stravinsky did the same. He was used to copy a lot of Rimsky-Korsakov, also the arrangements. He was really copying in a way that you say, are you kidding me? When you find that the piece he copied is one exactly the same.
Yeah, well, I think it's just the path of the composer. I mean, or any creative person, you start with emulation, and then you start finding your own little bits of yourself. And if you're really lucky, you move beyond that. I'll never forget this story Michael Manring shared on an interview with us about how he tried so hard to sound like Jaco Pastorius, and he studied with Jaco, but he kept making these little quirky noises, on his own bass that he was like, oh, what is this? Why does this keep happening? This is not what Jaco would do. And that's when he realized, oh, that's me. That's my voice coming through, while I'm trying to sound like Jaco. And then Matthias Eklund, he talks a lot about growing your own mustache. And basically, he started just chopping out anything in his technique that made him sound like anyone else. But I think if you really want to pursue your own voice, it's an intentional effort, but you have to start with that emulation. I'd like to talk a little about the real tactics of what you've done here. Did you do all the scoring yourself? And, did you learn about the range of each instrument and go through the Slonimsky book? And, how did you notate this whole thing and make this project happen?
Okay, good question. First, I start a pre-production in a DAW, on Logic, and I use virtual instruments. And then from there, I try to make the pre-production sounding as better as possible in terms of being realistic. And then I created the score. But yes, answering to your question, I composed everything, and this album took very long time. My other release, it takes too long actually, because I did all by myself, and in the end of the day, I was really at the verge of a burnout, And but yeah, it is what I like to do, and I mentioned earlier, in the recent years, I like more the idea of composing, to do arrangement. The guitar is the instrument I play. I'm comfortable with that instrument, but I get a little bit bored sometimes. There's some suggestion here. Gretchen, that is helping me. Shoot this little.
Oh, this is the book.
This is a great composer, actually, Gordon Jacob, that he did a great bassoon concerto that I'm obsessed recently. And he did this little orchestration book. But in this house, we are full of orchestration, book harmony, and especially counterpoint. Anyway, to answer your question, a lot of the time I work on composition. Now I finished this album, I would like to compose more, but I feel inadequate as a composer. I'm always studying, music, especially counterpoint and composition, and to make because I want to do arrangement that sounds strong. And then in the end, I put the guitar. In all the album, the guitar was composed in the very end. Actually, sometimes if you remove the guitar, if you want, I can send it. If you remove the guitar, the piece sound better probably. Because you can hear better all the movements behind, sorry.
That's hysterical.
Yes. Then I did the pre-production with fake virtual instruments. Then on Sibelius, the notation took a long time to the notation. And then we start to record. In Italy, we record separate rooms, all the instruments, starting with a string quartet first, or quartet. String quartet or quartet?
Quartet.
They know that you are here. Don't worry, you can talk. For the strings, the first layer, and then we did the woodwinds, and then we did some piano, some percussions. Then you have some electronic also instruments, not a lot, but there is some electronic instruments. And then after the mixing, I did the guitar. And then we recorded like a pop production. Each instrument in a separate room. In this way, in a second moment, I go home with all the material, and I can do cut, I can do post-production as much as I want. I select the best take. Fortunately, I have a good musician, and then I don't need to do too much editing. But to achieve a sound that it was like they play all together, I needed to work a lot in post-production. And I'm happy about that, because a lot of people told me that the sound of the album, they said, but you recorded everybody together. No, everybody was in section actually, with a click. metronome, a pop production basically.
Very interesting because I feel like this is this album, like many albums we try to feature, is a work of art, and I think we could talk for hours about it. And I have so many questions myself about the process. But we do have to wrap up. I'm just curious. Are there any plans for a live performance, or have you performed this live with the string, orchestra?
Not at the moment. At the moment, not at the moment, because but we will see. We will see. At the moment, there is nothing planned. But sometimes some festival came out, if there is the budget, and really because I have everything on Pro Tools, depending on the budget, I can play this album only with a string quartet and the guitar. The rest goes on the track. If there is more budget, I can play. I remember playing a festival. It was a very cool festival in France where I opened for Carlos Santana, and we were in a cool ensemble. We were four strings, four woodwinds, guitar, drum, bass, and it was a cool ensemble. Then it really depends. Some song have less instruments, other more. For instance, the first piece you played in the recording, we have two contrabassoons that I really love that instruments. In the video there was a contrabassoonist player, but in the album we have two contrabassoon left and right in the place of an 8-string guitar, because that piece is a little bit metal. We use two contrabassoons with a little bit of overdrive in post-production. It's pretty funny. It was we weren't able to put it too much out in the mix because the contrabassoon become very aggressive immediately, and it's destroy the mix basically.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Hansen, but he lives not far from you in the Bay Area.
I know he's a incredible bassoonist.
Yes, yeah, and he does electronic work as well with the processing live. I brought him out here for a live show, and he's on my latest song. He's awesome. The bassoon is making a resurgence. I keep hearing about bassoons everywhere I go lately.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's my favorite instrument.
It's
really.
a beautiful, and it has such a range, almost like the fretless bass. Manring said the fretless bass essentially has the range of a man's singing voice, and I feel like the bassoon is another very vocal instrument. The guitar will cut through the mix, and you get these really high highs, but that sort of mid-range is where it gets real muddy on the electric guitar. But on the bassoon and electric bass, I feel like they really shine there.
Yeah, I like all the woodwinds instrument. I take a lot of inspiration from the woodwinds for the way they articulate, the way they articulate, because I really like the legato sound on the guitar. And then when I try to place my guitar part on the top of this arrangement, I try to think in terms, okay, in this register, I think I am an English horn. Then I go below, more in the tenor, I am a bassoon. I go up, I am an oboe, especially around the 12th fret. Perfect. I go up. Actually, the guitar, the lead guitar, and the oboe share a perfect range. Anyway, this is another story.
No, that's awesome. Like I said, we could go on for hours, I think, but there are links down here in the corner. So this link, bfan.link/INkBlot, this is where you can get the, you can listen to the whole album streaming. There's links to various streaming services. You can buy it directly on Amazon and Apple. And Daniele is going to be putting it on Bandcamp real soon in preparation for the next Bandcamp Friday, which is October 7th, I believe. And then his official website is here, officialdaniele.gottardo.com. Definitely check that out. He's got links to, there's manuscripts for a couple of the songs from this album. There's a lot about his previous albums as well. And Daniele's he's a very diverse guitarist. Tons of different styles of music. And for those who don't know, Steve Vai has said Daniele is possibly his favorite guitarist, or like young guitarist, and the most promising guitarist, one of on Earth. So I think that's a really huge compliment to Daniele, and this album is surely a reflection of his incredible talent. So Daniele, we're really happy, not only for you with the release of this, but honored that you would, share your talent with us at Make Weird Music and with the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you to you. It's an honor to share these stories about the album with you, and thank you so much for all your work that you are doing with all these musicians that does this weird music, right? You are helping a lot us in having a more speak loudly, how I can say.
Yeah, amplify the voices.
Much.
Thank you very much. So we don't have another live stream scheduled yet. So anyone who's looking for our next interview, just follow us on social media, and you'll be sure to see when I have something to announce. I have several projects planned, but nothing that I can announce right now. And then we're going to listen to one final piece called Blue Salt before we go. I just want to ask the live viewers or anyone watching this after the stream one quick favor. If you could hit the like button, not for my sake, but for Daniele's sake. It signals to the algorithm that this was an interesting and good video to watch. And leave a comment if you can, and share the link with your friends. And if you want to support Make Weird Music, there is a join button below the video player, and it's $3 a month, and you get early access to stuff, including access to hours and hours of footage that I am too lazy to edit and release as a shorter video. So enjoy. Daniele, thanks again. Let's take a listen
Thank you so much, Anthony.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very welcome. All right, let's check out Blue Salt. I still have to get this part of the streaming figured out.
This was okay.
Well, my video just went wonky. I don't know what's going on, so I'm going to switch off the video and we'll just go straight to audio only.